Good afternoon to all. We are discussing Turing machine, and so far we have discussed about the design of the Turing machine, how to design the Turing machine with. Turing machine is useful for to design different types of problem solving, it acts as a language recognizer. Also, it acts as a to solve the different types of functions. Also, so we have seen various examples on construction or the design of Turing machine. Now, in this session, we are going to discuss about the different types of Turing machines. So, which are the different types of Turing machines, their applications, and finally, the halting problem of the Turing machine that we are going to discuss in the today's session. So, let us see the types of Turing machine, or it is also called as the variants of Turing machine, one by one. Now it has become clear that Turing machine is a powerful computation device. As already we have seen the power or the how the computation is being done with the help of our Turing machine. Turing machine may have some reasonable variants with same computation power as the standard Turing machine. So though we are saying it that these are the types or these are the variants of the Turing machine, but all Turing machine, all the variants, they are having equal power, or they all TM are equivalent in nature. These variants recognize the same class of language. Of course, as they are equivalent, they recognize the same class of language. Variants of Turing machine occur because of the following factors. So why there may be question in your mind that, so if the powers are equal, so why there is necessity that the Turing machine has different types? Why there is a need of different types of Turing machine? So different reasons are there. So different factors are there. So let us see these factors. So first one is difference in number of tapes associated with the Turing machine. So far, so this is, one can say that this is the first and the basic factor, that so Turing machine may contain more than one tape. So input tape, we have a single tape machine is there, and in that particular tape we are going to put our input string. But it may happen that in some Turing machine it may contain more than one tape, so that leads to second category or the second type of your Turing machine. Then presence of more than one transition for the head on the same state and same input alphabet. So more than one transition for the head. Suppose the head is pointing to that particular input alphabet. So more than one transition for the head on the same input, it is possible. Just like your NFA, right? On a same input symbol, multiple transitions are possible. The same case in case of a Turing machine. So if you have this particular transitions on the same input, so it can categorize into another Turing machine, right? The second, the factor which is basically responsible for the type of Turing machine is difference in the dimension of the tapes. So you have the input tape, we have the input tape. So the input tapes are single dimension input tape is there, as well as you can have the double dimension input tape is there. So this dimension, if you change the dimension, you can call it as a different type of Turing machine. Presence of more than one head with a single tape. Okay, so second category or the second type, you can say that single input tape is there, but you can have more than one head. Read-write heads are there. Two single read head number one and head number two. Two heads are possible. They go on reading the input string on that particular input tape. Then limitation on the tape to expand in either direction or both directions. So this particular type is basically depend upon the whether the input tape expand either in right hand side direction or it expand in the left hand side direction. Means it may close on one end and it go on expanding in the RHS, or if it is closed on this particular end, it may go on expanding in this reverse direction. So depending upon these factors, depending upon the number of tapes, depending upon the multiple transitions on the same input symbol, depending upon the dimension, single dimension, double dimension, depending upon the presence of more than one head, one head with a single tape, and limitation of the tape to expand in either direction. So all these factors, so one can say that these are nothing but the parameters or the factors. They leads to the different types of Turing machine. These lead to different types of Turing machines. Getting this point? So let us see each type one by one in detail. So for one more parameter is nothing but the presence of stationary head. So it may happen that in some cases the head is not moving, head is stationary, and so that is the another kind of your Turing machine. So first is nothing but your multi-tape Turing machine. As the name itself indicates, it is the multi-tape Turing machine consists of multiple number of input tape. So this variant of Turing machine may be created by using a multiple tapes, input tapes, where each has separate read-write head. So multiple tape, and it's having its own read-write head and transition function. The tapes are divided into a number of cells, and each cell can contain a single tape alphabet. Right? Each tape is connected to the finite control by means of read-write head. The read-write head can move in either direction, either left or right direction, and may remain stationary or no move also. Since the heads of the different tapes move independently, different heads may move in the different direction and some may not move at all. So in case of multi-tape Turing machine, so you have the multiple number of input tapes are available, and these tapes, suppose this is the tape number 1 and read-write head number 1. So this is the tape number 2 and this is the read-write head number 2. So they are independent. These two tapes are independent of each other. The head movements are also independent of each other. One head can move in this particular right hand direction, as another head can move in the left hand side direction. So depending upon this, so having this multi-tape Turing machine, independent number of input tapes are there, as well as independent number of read-write heads. They can have the free movement on their respective input tapes, right? So next point in the multi-tape Turing machine is that the multi-tape TM will always have an alphabet of input, from input letter sigma, an alphabet of tape character, that is tau, initial and the final state as required by the simple Turing machine. The input strings are taken from sigma. The tape head can write any character from tau, that is nothing but your tape character, and movement of the read-write head depends on the symbols scanned by all its heads and also on the current state. Just like your simple, in case of simple Turing machine, the state, present state, current state is depending upon the current symbol read, and what output is to be printed on that particular input, and the head movement, either it is a right hand or the left hand side direction. The read-write head then rewrites some of the scanned squares and moves some of the heads to either left or right and changes the state. Initially, finite control is in the initial state and input symbols are placed on the first tape while other tapes are blank. So if there are no sufficient input symbols are available, so suppose there are two tapes are there, two input tapes are there. So first input tape is selected, and on this first input tape, the all input symbols are placed, and the in a read-write head which is associated with this first input tape, it is bring into the action to read the inputs from that particular tape. Next point is, hence we can formally define a multi-tape in a tuple format like this: capital M equal to Q, sigma, tau character, Q0, delta, and F, where capital Q is nothing but the finite set of state, sigma is nothing but the finite set of input alphabet, capital this tau symbol, or it is nothing but the finite set of tape symbols, then Q0 is the initial state and F is the final state of state, and delta is the transition function. And now see here what exactly is the difference between the transition function. So delta is nothing but Q into tau raised to k, that gives you Q into tau raised to k into bracket L R H raised to k. So in our simple Turing machine, we have Q into tau, means the current state, into current in a current tape symbol, or the current tape symbol, that gives you the next state, or we can say new state, into next tau symbol, or the next tape symbol, right, into either it may go in the left direction or right direction, or it will be in halt state or steady state location. So here you have tau raised to k, here also you will get here tau raised to k, and here also either L or H bracket raised to k, because it is a multi-tape. Suppose there are two tapes, so you can have tau raised to 2. It is very simple. If there are two tapes are there, multi-tape configuration, you can put a 2 number here. So it is nothing but the 2. You have to consider the two different tape symbols, and you have to go for the two. Either you go for the left direction for one tape, and for a right direction for another tape. It is also possible. For example, if delta qi comma a1 a2 dot 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 ak, that is equal to, means transition, which is written in the multi-tape configuration, that is AI, comma B1, B2, dot 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 BK, comma RLH. So this is the way how we are writing. So QI is nothing but the current state. Then you can have A1, A2, A3. These are nothing but the input reads, and the output to be printed A1, A2, A3. That is to be printed as a B1, B2, B3, dot 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 to BK, and the directions are either read, write, and halt condition. Getting this point? The next point in the multi-tape machine is that this implies that when TM is in state QI, the read-write head is under the symbol A1 of the cell of type 1. The TM enters into the state AI and moves one cell right after replacing symbol A1 with the symbol B1. It is very similar as that of your simple Turing machine on tape 1. So this one A1, this one A1 and B1, this indicates the tape number, means it is the input is from first tape, or the output is to be printed on the first tape itself. So move one cell left after replacing the symbol AK with BK in the tape K. So K stands for the tape number. Remember this point. So we can consider a single tape TM to be multiple TM containing only one tape. Multi-tape TM are equivalent in power with the standard Turing machine. There is no change at all if we consider the equivalency or their power. Hence, multi-tape TM can be converted into standard or the single tape Turing machine by placing the contents of the different tape using some delimiters. Means on a single tape, suppose if I have a single tape, so different tape input can be placed on the same machine. So on same input tape. So here are suppose two tapes are there. AB is on one tape, and say for example XY on another tape. This is nothing but input tape number 2. This is nothing but my for example tape number 1. So this can be integrated on a single tape, but only the thing is that AB, and you have to give some delimiter here. Suppose semicolon or the hyphen is there, or suppose double dots are there, and I can write here XY. So combine it, and you will get a single tape configuration, our simple Turing machine configuration. Getting this point? So there is no difficulty at all while converting one type into the another type. The next type of the Turing machine is nothing but the non-deterministic Turing machine. Non-deterministic Turing machine. So let us see here. For non-deterministic Turing machine, NDM stands for non-deterministic Turing machine, can be defined a manner similar to non-deterministic finite automata, just like your NFA. On a single input source, on a single input, I can have on A it goes to Q1, on A also it goes to Q2 state on A input, right? So the same concept is here. You can see a NDTM, non-deterministic Turing machine, allows more than one edge leaving from any state with the same input alphabet. Thus, there is a unique triplet comprising of next state, unique action, and motion, that is left, right, or halt, corresponding to each pair of the current state and the symbols being scanned in the standard Turing machine. That is, if we read some input alphabet on the tape, then we may have several choices on the transition diagram to move on. This implies that an NDM may move to several different states on reading the same input alphabet from the same state. So meaning is that we can write, for example, from this example, it will clear to delta Q0A. So in case of your NDTM or NDM, you have the transition Q0A. So you have the multiple transitions. Either you can have A1, B1, and R, or you can have A2, B2, R, or you can have A3, B3, R. This is nothing but the input A1. You have to replace by A1 by B1 and move in the right hand side direction. Input is A2, replace it by output B2 and move in the right hand side direction. Or input is A3, the output is to be printed as a B3, and direction is right direction. Here, processing of delta Q0A result in a set of three triplets. Hence, we have three choices to move on state Q0 on input alphabet A. This it is similar to your NFA, non-deterministic finite automata. So we can define NDM as, now see the definition, definition or the tuple definition of the non-deterministic Turing machine as Q sigma tau Q0 delta F. So here capital Q is nothing but the finite set of state, then sigma is nothing but the finite set of input alphabet, then capital this tau is nothing but the finite set of tape symbol, Q0 is the initial state, F is nothing but the final state of state, and delta transition function defined as, now see here, the difference in the transition function, the 2 raised to Q into tau into LRH. This is the difference between your multi-tape Turing machine as well as your simple Turing machine. If it is a simple Turing machine, I can have Q into tau, that gives me Q into tau into LRH, right? But if it is a multi-tape, Q into R raised to K, that is equal to Q into tau raised to K into LRH raised to K. But in case of non-deterministic Turing machine, NDM, I can have Q into tau, that gives me 2 to the power Q into tau into LRH. Getting this point, 2 raised to power, that is the non-deterministic. That's why it is called as a non-deterministic, means the next transition it is not determined, so it is in the power of 2. So if you remember the transition function Q into sigma, that gives you 2 raised to Q, it is for your non-deterministic finite automata. 2 into sigma current state with the current input symbol, it gives you 2 raised to Q, it gives you to the power Q. Getting this point? So same case here also, 2 raised to Q into 2 into either left, right, or halt state. Let us go to the next one. Non-deterministic Turing machine, if a string W is said to be accepted by NDM if there exists a sequence of moves starting from initial ID to an accepting condition, the NDM accepts the same language as accepted by the deterministic Turing machine. So these two set of languages are equal. So we can say that the deterministic Turing machine, the language accepted by deterministic Turing machine and accepted by the non-deterministic Turing machine, they are the same. So next is nothing but your next type of Turing machine is nothing but your multi-dimensional Turing machine. So multi-tape is a different, non-deterministic is the different one, and third type is nothing but your multi-dimensional Turing machine. So multi-dimensional means what? A multi-dimensional Turing machine is one in which the tape can consist of multiple dimensional arrays. Input tape, see here, focus on your slide. A tape, input tape can be consist of multiple dimensional arrays of cells expanding infinity in more than one dimension. So 2 dimensions, say for example, just like a matrix like structure, your 2 by 2 matrix, or it is a 3 by 3 matrix. So this is nothing but your input tape. Initially it is a single direction, a single dimension. You have the double dimension. I can have the A is there, also I can write B is here, A is here, A is here, A is here in the cell, A is also written in the this cell. The figure shows 2-dimensional Turing machine. Multi-dimensional Turing machine contains finite control and read-write head. Depending upon the state and the symbol scanned, the device changes the state, prints new symbol, and moves its tape head. For simplicity, we can assume that the read-write head state scanning from lower left symbol and in the row measure, which implies that it scans the leftmost symbol in the first row, moves right to all the columns, then moves to the leftmost symbol in the second row. Getting this point? So if you have the row-like structure, if this is the row-like structure, so first leftmost row, this is nothing but my leftmost row, so it will read this particular symbol first, then moves to the right to all the columns, so it will move to the right to the all the columns, say for example here, then moves to the leftmost symbol in the second row. So this leftmost symbol in the second row will be read first, then again it will read this one, then again come back, it will read this particular symbol. Okay, in this way in multi-dimensional Turing machine, how the symbols are scanned and how they are read, the process is given here. So read once again the scanning from lower left symbol and in the row measure, which implies that it scans the leftmost symbol in the first row. So this is your first row, for example. So leftmost symbol is scanned first, moves right to all the columns, then moves to the leftmost symbol in the second row. Then this is the second row, for example. Again, it take the leftmost symbol in the second row and move right to all the columns, and so on. The process is repeated. At any time, the finite number of rows in any dimension may contain non-blank symbols, and each of these rows have only a finite number of non-blank symbols. So at every time, this particular row, they must contain the non-blank, means they must not be blank. There must be some symbol, input symbol must be there, right? So let us see next point. Multi-tape head Turing machine. The next type of the Turing machine is multi-tape head Turing machine. Sorry, multiple head Turing machine. So till now we have seen the multi-dimensional, then non-deterministic. Now it is a multiple head. Sorry, multiple head Turing machine. So here the heads are more in number. So in this, more than one tape head can be used with a single tape, and single control unit. So you have only single tape. Tape is single one, but multiple heads, read-write heads are multiple in number, right? However, we need to define certain rules before using multiple heads in Turing machine, such as whether the heads can move in both directions or in one direction. So either both heads are move in a same direction, or first head move in the left direction, second head move in the right direction. So that is to be decided first. Or in all tape heads can the symbol, then which head operation would be preferred. So of course, so priority is to be given to which head, that is to be decided here. It is important to note that power of the Turing machine is not enhanced by use of extra head. That is important point. So though we are increasing the number of heads, number of read-write head, but that does not mean that the power of Turing machine is increased here. So the transition function defined as, so see the delta transition function in the multiple head Turing machine, it is defined as delta current state symbol under head 1 dot 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 symbol under head n, that is equal to new state comma new symbol movement direction comma new in the first bracket, again next bracket new symbol comma movement direction bracket complete and bracket complete. So this is the way how the transition is defined in case of your multiple head Turing machine, right? Next type of the next category of the Turing machine is nothing but the two-way infinite tape. Already we have solved some examples on the two-way infinite tape. So two-way infinite tape, the tape is infinite in both directions. It is infinite in both the directions. Both left and right hand sides of the tape are symmetrical, since there is an infinite continuous sequence of blank in both directions. So in a simple way, we can define, or I can draw like this. So here I have B. So in between this 2B, or in between these two capital delta, the input string must be there, right? So string in both the direction of the string available on the tape. So the model does not provide any additional computational capability, but computational capability point of view, it is not going to provide any additional computational capability. The next type of the Turing machine is nothing but the UTM. It is called as the universal Turing machine. That is nothing but UTM. So let us see this universal Turing machine. A universal Turing machine is a programmable machine that can compute anything that is computable, as opposed to separate Turing machines computing individual functions that they were hard-coded to compute. A universal machine, or MU, should be able to simulate the computations carried out by any hard-coded Turing machine M. A general purpose computer can be programmed to solve different types of problems. Turing proposed such a machine by providing the standard Turing machine with more than one tape. Universal Turing machine has 3 tapes. See here. So your standard Turing machine is there, STM, that is the standard Turing machine. So we add 3 tapes here. We add means the Turing, who invented the Turing machine, he added 3 tapes, and the machine is converted into UTM, that is called as the universal Turing machine. So let us see what is the significance of each tape here. A TM can also behave like a general purpose computer that solves the problem as given below. Program is written in a high level language, and its machine code is obtained with compiler. Machine code is loaded in the main memory. Input to program can also be loaded in the main memory. Means just like your normal computer works, the universal Turing machine works exactly similar to that computer. So that is the power of your Universal. That's why it is called as a UTM, Universal Turing Machine. Okay. So program stored in the memory is executed line by line. So same way, as our general computer machine work on the same manner, your universal Turing machine works here. We can follow the same approach for Turing machine. Universal Turing machine can solve all sort of solvable problems. Universal Turing machine has three tapes. Just now we have discussed that it contains three tapes, or the Turing has imposed three tapes in the standard Turing machine, so it becomes your universal Turing machine. So see their significance. So first tape is nothing but input output tape. It is used to simulate the tape of the particular machine M. Input and output is written on this tape. Second, compiled program tape. Now what is the significance, what is the use of this compiled program tape? It stores the program, that is the table of instructions. This tape is a read only tape. This is only a read only tape. This particular tape you cannot write here. It is the only read only purpose. This tape is read only purpose only, whereas input output tape, here you are putting input as well as you are writing input in the input output tape. And the third tape is nothing but working memory tape. The third tape is nothing but your working memory tape, on which the current state of the machine M is being simulated is maintained. Means it is nothing but the temporary memory it provides you. So it is nothing but your temporary memory. So if you compare this particular universal Turing machine with your computer, with your general computer, you can observe that the input output tape means nothing but your input given to your computer machine and output which is calculated by the CPU, whether it is a Pentium processor or whether it is a Core i3 processor, Core i7 processor, they compute certain computations and displays the output. The same thing is happening here. Input and output tape means you have the input to be taken on the tape as well as output to be displayed on the tape here. Compile program tape means whatever may be the compile, whatever may be the, it is nothing but the set of instruction, means what all the processes they are placed on the compile program tape. And the working memory tape in the current state of the Turing machine, that is similar to your RAM memory, or it is nothing but your volatile memory. Working memory tape means whatever may be the state of the Turing machine, universal Turing machine, it is kept on the working memory tape. Getting this point? So these are the three tapes which is very similar, very analogous to your nowadays computer system. The three tapes and their three independent reading heads are controlled by a finite control unit with its own states and transition functions. So see here, so we have our processor, we have our main memory, we have our operating system. All these we can say it is electronic part, or it was invented for the computer system. But this is nothing but actual the basic concept of your computer. This is actually we can, that's why it is called as the theory. So yes, one can have the input output, we can have the set of instruction, and we can have the memory, auxiliary memory or the temporary memory or the RAM memory, and these are implemented in your computer machines or in your laptop computers, whatever it may be, right? So this unit can be very well be considered the operating system of universal Turing machine. In order to build such a universal computing machine MU, we need a way of encoding the transitions of machine M. In other words, we need to define a universal programming language and a compiler that encodes the entire Turing machine M as a string that can be executed by MU. So very similar to our nowadays computer system and operating system. So with the help of, so universal Turing machine is the one can say actual concept. It is implemented with reference to your nowadays computer and operate with operating system, right? Church-Turing thesis. So this is the one concept that you see here, Church-Turing thesis. We define important terms such as computer. So one new concept we have to see here with reference to the Turing machines. We define important terms such as computation and algorithm using Turing machines. What if there are computing problems that Turing machines cannot handle? So what if there are problems that computing machines cannot handle? So fortunately, Alan Turing and Alan Turing shows that anything that can be computed by a Turing machine. So anything which is a computable one, definitely it is computed by Turing machine itself. This statement has no proof. It has no proof and is not a theorem. So we cannot say that. So they made a statement like anything that can be computed by a Turing machine. But it does not have any proof, or it does not supported by any theorem. So that's why it is called as. However, no one so far has been able to find a computing problem that Turing machine cannot compute, but some other machine can. Meaning is that there is no such machine that can compute a particular problem, that can solve a particular problem, but the Turing machine cannot solve such problem. It is not going to happen. So each and every computable problem that is solved by a Turing machine. Hence, this claim is known famously as Church-Turing thesis. We can say, in other words, that only functions that are computable by Turing machines are computable. Means, other words, reversely, we can say that the functions which are performed by the Turing machines, which are computable by the Turing machines, they are only computable. And if the function or the programs, or if one can say they are not computable by the Turing machines, they are not computable at all. They are not computable at all. So it is strange fact that this highly abstract and simple machine with a seemingly trivial instruction set is in fact universal and the most powerful. That leads the most universal and the powerful machine that is nothing but your Turing machine. At the same time, from a practical point of view, it is perhaps also the most inefficient computing platform that one can build. Yes, yet its simplicity is the basis for providing some of the most important theoretical results in the computer science. So that is nothing but the thesis, or this is the concept related with the Turing machine. Now the halting problem, the very famous problem with reference to the Turing machine, that is nothing but the halting problem. Let us see the halting problem of the Turing machine. To state the halting problem, we will consider the given configuration of the Turing machine as the output of the Turing machine can be either it is in a halt state or it is in a no halt state. So halt means what? The machine starting at this configuration will halt after a finite number of states. So after reaching to the finite number of state, TM enters into the halt state, or TM machine halt. No halt means what? The machine starting at this configuration never reaches a halt state, no matter how long it runs. So that means it is in an infinite running state. It is in infinite running state. Now the question arises on those two observations like this: given any functional matrix, input data type and initial configuration, then is it possible to determine whether the process will ever halt? So this is called as the halting problem. So problem is that given a functional matrix, given input data and given initial configuration, then is it possible to determine the process? What exactly is the process of the halt of that particular Turing machine? Means we do not have to find out whether the Turing machine halt or not, but we have to find out the process whichever will tell that whether Turing machine is a halt or not. That is called as the halting problem of the Turing machine, right? Let us see. Let us start proving this. That means we are asking for a procedure which enable us to solve the halting problem for every pair input, that is machine and the tape. Machine and the tape means your Turing machine and the input tape. The answer is no. Answer is to this problem is no. That's why it is called as the unsolvable problem. So halting problem of the Turing machine, it is categorized as an unsolvable problem. Now we will prove why it is unsolvable. Let us see here. Let there exist a Turing machine. So be focused on your screen. Let there exist a Turing machine M1 which decides whether or not any computation by TM will ever halt when a description of T and tape small t of Turing machine T is given. So that means input to machine M1 will be, that is machine comma tape in this particular pair, means you have to input to the machine in the particular pair format. So then for every input, that is t comma dt to M1, input given to machine Turing machine M1, if the machine T halt for input small t, M1 also halts, which is also called as accept halt. This point is to be remembered here. For any input t, if the Turing machine halt for that particular input, it is called as the accept halt, means successfully the Turing machine enters into the halt state. Remember this point. This is the first condition you have to remember. Now let us go to the next one. Similarly, if t does not halt for input t, then M will halt, which is called as the reject halt. So if the Turing machine does not halt for the input t, then it is called as the reject halt. So this is shown in the figure. So let us see the figure. Input t dt given to the Turing machine, accept halt when t halts for small t, and the reject halt when t does not halt for small t. Getting this point? So now we will consider another Turing machine. Let us consider M2. Now this is all about your Turing machine M1. Now consider here M2, another Turing machine which takes an input dt. It first copies dt and duplicates dt, and it duplicates the dt on its tape, and then this duplicated tape information is given as input to M1. I think this point. So input is dt, it is copied, and duplicated information is given to M1. But machine M1 is modified machine with the modifications that whenever M1 is supposed to reach to accept halt, M2 loops forever. Remember this point. Machine M1 is modified machine with the modifications that whenever M1 machine Turing machine 1 is supposed to reach to accept halt state, M2 loops forever. Means when M1 in the accept halt state, M2 loops forever. Getting this point? So meaning is that hence behavior of M2 is given as it loops if t halts for input t equal to dt, and it halts if t does not halt for t equal to dt. Means in the term of input, we can write for the behavior of M2 is like this: it enters into the looping state, or it enters into the loop forever if t halts for input t equal to dt, and halts if t does not halt for t equal to dt. Means either it go into the loop or either it have the halts. But when it go to halt, when the t does not halt for t dt, and when it will be loop when if t halts for input t equal to dt. So see the diagram for this. So first let us see the diagram. So that is nothing but the input t dt, it is copied t and it is given to modified M1, and this is your M2. This is nothing but your M2 machine. The output of M2, it is given to M1. So looping is nothing but t halts for input t equal to dt. This is nothing but your loops. When M1, this is the output of Turing machine 1 M1, right? And halt means what? Halt means t does not halt. This halt is t does not halt for t equal to dt. So t does not halt for t equal to dt. That is nothing but your halt. And loop means what? T halts for input t equal to dt, right? So and this M2. So M2 means M2. If the input M2 state is M2 enters in the loop state when t halts for input t equal to dt, and M2 state is in a halt when t does not halt for dt. It is for M2. Remember this point. As M2 itself is one Turing machine, we will take M2 equal to capital T. We will assume, because M2 is another Turing machine, so assume it is equal to capital T. That means we will replace T by M2 from above given machine. So let us see the diagram here. So let us replace it and we call it as a capital M2. So loop. So we just T instead of T we are instead of T we are putting here M2 here. So M2 halts for input D M2 instead of D T, right? And M2 does not halt for D M2, that is nothing but your DT. So T is now replaced by M2, right? So what exactly it means? So what exactly it means? The meaning is that thus machine M2 See it carefully, read it carefully. Machine M2 halts for input DM2 if M2 does not halt for input DM2. What is the result we obtained here? A result obtained from the second machine is that M2 machine, Turing machine M2 halts for input DM2 if machine M2 does not halt for input DM2. What is the meaning of this? It is the contradiction. This is the statement is contradicting itself. It is called as the proof by contradiction. Means the statement is proving or it is nothing but the contradiction to the statement itself. So that means a machine M1 which can tell whether any other TM will halt on a particular input does not exist. Means what your assumption we have made, the machine that does not exist here. Hence halting problem is a unsolvable problem. So this is the way how we have proved that halting problem of the Turing machine is the unsolvable problem. It is the unsolvable problem. Getting this point? So this is the way how to prove that the halting problem of the Turing machine, and we have to discuss in detail. The next point in this particular topic is nothing but the comparison of the comparisons of the machines. So in the theory of computations, we have studied different types of machines. So let us compare between all these machines. We have studied various models, that is finite machines, push-down automata, post machines, and the Turing machines. Finite machine is of two types, that is deterministic and non-deterministic, that is DFA and NFA. Finite machines, state machines, both these DFA, that is the DFA and NFA, accept the regular language. Hence, both machines have equal power. That is, already we discussed that both these finite automata, they are equal or equivalent in nature. DFA equal to NFA. Push-down automata. Push-down automata consists of two models, that is DPDA and NPDA, deterministic and non-deterministic PDA. The advantage of PDA over finite automata is that it has a memory in the form of stack, and hence PDA accepts the large class of language than finite automata. Of course, hence the PDA has more power than finite automata. So the NPDA accepts the language of the context-free grammar, non-deterministic push-down automata. Power of DPDA is less as compared to NPDA, as NPDA accepts the larger class of CFL, or that is a context-free languages. A string of the form a raised to n, b raised to n, if the string of the form in the language can be handled by DPDA, it can be handled by deterministic push-down automata, but cannot handle by finite automata, right? A string of the form w dot w raised to r, means string dot reverse of the string, can be handled by DPDA, deterministic push-down automata, but cannot be handled by finite automata, mean neither your DFA or NFA. Post machine, on the other hand, is the more powerful than your PDA. Means both PDA, that is whether it is NPDA or DPDA, but post machine, that is called as a Q automata. We are using Q in the post machine. It is more powerful than your push down automata. A string of the form a raised to n, b raised to n, c raised to n can be handled by a post machine, but it cannot be handled by your push down automata. It cannot be handled by your push down automata. A post machine can simulate functioning of the Turing machine. Hence, Turing machine and post machine, we can say that they have equal power. Turing machine can be programmed. So just like your Turing machine, it can be programmed. Hence, Turing machine accepts very, very large class of languages. Very large class of languages. Turing machine accepts regular, non-regular, context-free, and context-sensitive language as well, right? So we can write like, so you have the finite automata, it is having the less power as compared to your deterministic push-down automata, having the less power, or the NPDA having more power than your DPDA, and your post machine having the more power as compared to NPDA. So Turing machine is the most powerful amongst all the automata we have studied so far. Getting this point? So we have learned in this session the types of Turing machine, the different types of Turing machines, that is multi-tape Turing machine, non-deterministic Turing machine, multi-dimensional Turing machine, multi-head Turing machine, two-way infinite tape Turing machine, and universal Turing machine. And finally, the halting problem of Turing machine. So this topic we have discussed the types. This is the first type of your Turing machine, that is a multi-tape. Here we are using multiple input tapes are there, and with their different read-write heads are possible. Non-deterministic Turing machines means on a single input symbol, the different transitions are possible with this non-deterministic. Multi-dimensional Turing machine, yes, you can have the array-like structure. Okay, you can have the array-like structure. So here it means input tape like a array. So A, B. So first from the leftmost side, the reading of the tape is started. Again, the head moves to the leftmost end, and the second row is being read here. The next is nothing but your multi-head Turing machine. Multiple heads are there to read a single tape, input tape. Multiple heads are there. In case of two-way infinite tape, already examples are seen. So both the ends are marked. So it is infinite in size. You can say that on both ends, the read-write head can move in both ends up to infinite in length. Universal Turing machine, just similar to your nowadays computer universal Turing machine. Then the halting problem of the Turing machines we have discussed in a very well manner. And finally, the comparisons of the machines. You have the Turing machine more powerful than your post machine. They are more powerful as compared to your non-deterministic push-down automata. More power than as compared to your deterministic push-down automata as compared to your finite automata. Finite automata may be your DFA or your NFA. Right. So this is the summary of these today's sessions, the points we discussed in the today's session. Right. The course outcome to construct and analyze the Turing machine for the formal languages. Right. So these are the reference book, and let us stop here for the today's session.